Second story I want to talk about is pretty interesting. Andrew Tate, I'll give a quick breakdown to those who don't know. I'll try to be like as fair as I can be. So Andrew Tate is basically a former kickboxer. I believe he's a world champion to some extent. He was a good kickboxer. Kickboxing is not the most well-known fighting like UFC and other things. So even though he was like a world champion, he wasn't that well known for his fighting unless you were in kickboxing circles. I'm not taking away from what Andrew Tate did. I think he was a great kickboxer. I'm just saying he wasn't as well known as he is now. So he was a kickboxer. Then he started becoming somewhat of a influencer of like, join my team, pay my thing, and you can, we'll teach you how to be successful in life. And he became kind of like a finance guy, a fit bro, basically telling like young men, men up, you can't be soft in this world. They're trying to brainwash you, like being an average man. You're not going to be successful, so you got to like achieve. And I think a lot of those messages were great.
Everybody understands that these places are tyrannical and that they control ideas and that they force narratives. And I use my wording as the Matrix. I call them the Matrix. And people say to me, why do you call them the Matrix? And I say, because they project a false version of reality in real time that people subscribe to. If there wasn't an absolute blacklist on all opposing views during COVID-19, that bullshit would never have gone on for as long as it did. It went on for as long as it did, and they managed to purport a false version of reality for so long because you couldn't discuss the opposing side.
And then on the other hand, he kind of, had an interesting past where he talked about basically bringing women to him when he was broke, and he had them doing webcam modeling, and basically he took the keyboard and was talking to the men and basically like getting millions of dollars out of men who thought they were talking to women.
Business from my apartment. And it just grew and grew and grew. And it got to the point where at one point I had 75 women working for me in 4 locations. Damn. And I was doing $600,000 a month. This is in the UK. But this leads into the story of why I moved to Romania. So at the height of my webcam pimping, I think I'm the king of the world, right? I have all these women, da-da-da. But the problem is my first 2 girls who worked for me because they loved me.
So, there's a lot of conservatives that love him. There's a lot of them that are skeptical of him because of his past. But he became the biggest influencer on TikTok and Facebook and everything. I mean, I don't know about Facebook, but TikTok, Instagram. And it was because he was interesting, he was kind of funny, and he was like misogynistic, quote unquote, AKA he just told it like he saw it, and a lot of people gravitated towards it, and he became a phenomenon with young men.
The closer you are to the real world, the closer people instantly get into their gender roles, because otherwise they get annihilated in real time. That's another thing I said when I was getting called misogynistic and I was arguing with feminists. I said, traditionally men are the leaders. And in ancient societies, men were in charge. That's because men are oppressive. You've oppressed us forever. That's their narrative. Their narrative is that we've oppressed women forever. I said, no, we've protected and provided for you forever.
Instead of like transgendering and being like a femboy or whatever they're doing now, he was leading millions of men to like be the other way, be like tough, want a Bugatti, be like, I want to be rich, get a Bugatti, be strong, be successful. So he was kind of leading a revolution of young boys to not transgender themselves and hate themselves because of their skin color. And as soon as he got super popular, he got in a fight with Greta Thunberg. Then he got arrested by Romania. They arrested him. So what did they arrest him for? They said sex trafficking and human trafficking and all these like hyped up charges. And I always said, just to tell you real quick, I always liked Andrew Tate. I know he's not perfect. I see the flaws. I understand that there's things that he's done that I wouldn't do. And there's also things that he said that I wouldn't say. That being said, I've never been an Andrew Tate hater. I've always thought he was funny. I've always thought he was interesting. I could listen to him 3 hours on a podcast and not get bored. Like, he's really that dude, in my opinion. Like, he is interesting. People hate him. He's interesting. And if you listen to him, he's like, got good takes about COVID. He's bold and definitely like, in my opinion, he can be a little trolly. I've never disliked him. I've always liked him. And I've always listened to, like, not like religiously, but I enjoy him. I think he's one of the most interesting people. And he got famous for a reason. Now, here's that Daily Mail story. Regardless of what you think of him, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, like him, hate him, here's the story. Daily Mail said 2 women who denied being trafficked by Andrew Tate and his brother and insist they worked for him willingly are victims and have been brainwashed, Romanian judges rule. The 2 women did not recognize that they were being enslaved, the court ruled. A clinical psychologist report said that they were left traumatized and exploited. So they have these 2 women that said, we weren't trafficked. They didn't do anything illegal. We were here under our own free will. We wanted to hang out with them or work for them or whatever they were doing. And the judge said, no. You don't know what you're talking about. You're being brainwashed. I mean, this is pretty crazy in my opinion. I mean, you have Obviously, men lie and women lie. That's obvious. It's not like one gender tells the truth and one gender lies. Women lie all the time. So when it's like, oh, well, these women said this, a lot of people can say a lot of things. So I'm not even for women framing men or men framing women. And this stuff does happen. Well, there's 3 women who said the same thing. Are we going to pretend like 3 women can't lie? Oh, 3 women said the same. Millions of women lie every day. And so do millions of men. So, you know, falsely framing someone for a heavy crime is something that unfortunately does happen in this society. And now here's like a new level to it. It's like these women aren't even trying to frame Andrew Tate. They're like, no, we're fine. We're not victims. And the judge is like, no, now that this is like the new level of framing a person, being like, even if women are on your side, we're going to say that they're too brainwashed to know how victimized they are. Let's read some of the article. 2 women who denied being trafficked by Andrew Tate and his brother, Tristan, did not understand that they were being enslaved and they had been brainwashed, a Romanian court has ruled. The 2 women both claim that they worked voluntarily for Andrew and Tristan Tate, but a report prepared by a clinical psychologist said they were left exploited and traumatized and did not recognize that they were being exploited. Andrew Tate, 36, and his brother Tristan, 34, were arrested in December on suspicion of human trafficking, rape, and forming an organized crime group to exploit women. Do you notice what that says? It says on the suspicion. They were arrested on the suspicion. They don't even have actual charges to bring against them. So Romania arrested these 2 brothers who are famous online for suspicion. And now 2 of the women that say we weren't trafficked, we were here, we're fine, are like, no. You are brainwashed and traumatized. We'll tell you what to think. Crazy. The brothers and their alleged female accomplices, separate from the 2 outlined in the clinical psychologist report, appeared at a Bucharest court yesterday where the appeal against a judge's decision to extend their arrest a second time was turned down. One of the 2 women was originally from the U.S. and been attracted to Romania by Tristan Tate, the court heard. The Romanian prosecutors considered the 2 women victims of Andrew Tate and the brother, despite their claim that they worked voluntarily. The court said due to the brothers' recruitment process of making their alleged victim fall in love with them, where they falsely claimed to want a relationship or marriage, they're now basically being told that they got brainwashed. Here's something that Andrew Tate said on, I don't know how he's tweeting, maybe somebody's tweeting for him, but he wrote this. I thought it was pretty interesting today. He said, I will update my will from prison. I will be donating $100 million to start a charity to protect men from false accusations. And here's the thing. You know, if a man goes to court with a woman over a child, like men do not win that very often, unless the woman's like a provable crackhead or has like a lot of felonies or something. I mean, I'm just speaking loosely, but the woman, if it's an even playing field, will win usually in court against a man when it comes to child stuff. So I mean, I've posted this on Twitter and I've heard a lot of horror stories from men who just got destroyed by evil women in court. I'm not saying it doesn't go the other way around. There's evil men who hurt women in person and in court too, but men get screwed in court often. I mean, I think there's a lot of great men that have bad stories about that. With that being said, I don't care what people think about Andrew Tate. I think he's being framed here, and I think they don't have a crime, so they're just trying to basically build evidence. With that being said, I want to explain why they're in this predicament in the first place. So they ran some sort of webcam business, and in my opinion, I thought this a year ago when I first heard Andrew Tate, or months ago. I was like, I wouldn't be bragging about that publicly, bro. And I'm not saying to hide it, but he was way too proud of basically scamming people. And I thought it was not only immoral, but just a bad legal idea anyway, because I listened to him and he would be bragging about how he would scam men out of millions of dollars. Like he'd have these webcam women and, you know, guys would be paying them, and the Tate brothers would be basically like legally pimping out the women. And then he was like, oh yeah, we'd make them pay millions. They'd think they were going to get with the chick, but they never did. So in my opinion, I don't think he should go to jail for this. And I don't think that he should, I think that they're framing him. But it's a bad move to basically just be proud of being like, yeah, I scammed a bunch of men out of money. I don't care. Haha. You know, we tricked guys. Like, to me, it's a bold move, because I'm not saying it's illegal, but it's flirting on the lines of legality when you're basically admitting to scamming guys. Like, you know, that, like, it's legal for women to do a webcam services. It's not, I don't know if it's legal to basically scam. Like, once you lie, you know, and like he was taking so much pride in all of these, like, you know, tactics that he had with this sort of business. I always thought it was a bad move, and I think now it's biting him in the ass. With that being said, you know, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's flawed. I don't think that they're charging these guys under true pretenses. I just think they don't like them, and they're looking for anything. That being said, I want to say also in Great Britain, they're talking about like, oh, all these young guys got brainwashed by Andrew Tate, and we need to like take away their indoctrination. The truth is, although they did talk about money and Bugattis and, you know, some things that some people would consider immoral or not good, you know, I guess advice for young men, in my personal view, Tate and his brother were the pendulum swinging the other way from all the psychotic left-wingism. So they were creating a movement of millions of kids who didn't want to be femboys, who didn't want to transgender themselves, who didn't hate their skin color, who didn't want to be average. And they were telling them, in my opinion, the truth, which is, if you're a young kid, you know, it's not like it used to be. It's not like, oh, if you're average, life is going to be good. It should be in a perfect society, but it's not a perfect society. So if you're a guy that doesn't really try to succeed and work hard, you're gonna, you know, life is gonna be rough. So I think the Tate brothers were giving the kids good advice. It's like, don't be pathetic. Don't be a left-wing loser, you know, like work hard. You know what I'm saying? Become great. Like nobody's gonna like you for being average. Like be great at something. It doesn't matter what you're great at, but just be great. You know what I'm saying? Work hard, be strong, work out. They were giving the kids an alternate out of this hellhole landscape of depression, pharmacy pills, and nonsense that the left wing is pushing on young kids. So I think that, in my opinion, if the Tate brothers were just left wing losers, you know, they probably wouldn't be in trouble right now. I don't think the left would have, or anybody would have really cared. So although I think they did some shady stuff, I do think they're being framed. And I think they had a net positive personally. Like they want to unbrainwash people who like Andrew Tate, but they don't want to unbrainwash all the left-wing kids who are depressed and hate themselves. Like, in my opinion, Andrew is 100% right. Like, I'm not saying you have to be the top of everything. Everybody can't be the best at everything. But one thing that you can do, no matter what your job is, work ethic, passion, you know what I'm saying? Every woman is attracted to a guy that's confident, so it's better to be confident than to not be confident. You know, women, unfortunately, for some, are attracted to success and finance. Some of that can be shallow. Other things, it's like women want to be protected, and one way they can know you're not going to leave them in a ditch somewhere possibly is if you're financially successful. So preaching these things to kids is like, listen, don't hate yourself, don't be a beta, don't walk around and cry because of your skin color, work out, be strong, try to be successful at something. It's not the worst advice I've ever heard. So personally, like I said, I've always liked Andrew Tate. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't because it's not trendy to now, or yeah, I understand he's not the best like Christian conservative role model, but he's certainly not the worst, and he's definitely interesting, and a man who's done a lot of wild stuff. He's lived a crazy life, and you know, I hope that justice is served. And personally, I think that justice is that they're innocent of the crimes that they're being accused of. There's a lot of people doing webcam stuff in this world. There's a lot of men that are behind the keyboard talking to women. I would say that there's even entire agencies now. Basically, if you're talking to like an OnlyFans chick, there's thousands of OnlyFans chicks that don't have the time, or they pay other people, just like a manager, to basically answer messages for them. So this idea that, even though it's kind of scummy and shouldn't be bragged about, this idea that you know, Andrew Tate was the only one doing that, it's just not true. And you know, if they're not running around arresting every OnlyFans model for human trafficking. So you know, I think they're getting framed. I've always liked listening to them on podcasts. You know, God bless the Tate brothers. God bless the quote-unquote victims that don't even think they're victims and are being told by a Romanian judge what to think. My question is, I wonder if the West and America has anything to do with this. It doesn't sound like America has so much power over a lot of these European nations. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody told them to look after Andrew Tate. That's just my thought. Let me know what you think in the comments. God bless you guys. And let's go to the third story.